All right, Deuteronomy chapter 13. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. All right, that's your hypothetical. Moses is saying, if this happens, somebody arises claiming to be a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, that they have had this vision, we see the future, and this particular event is going to happen. If that event happens, and then those people try to say, all right, I've now shown you that I know things, we need to go and we need to worship this god over here, Moloch, Baal, Astaroth, anybody but the one true and living God. The instructions for you is not to be excited by that sign, the miracle. It is to listen to the substance of what he's saying. And if he tells you to go serve other gods, the answer, verse 3, is, Thou shalt not hearken, or listen, unto the words of that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God proveth you to know whether ye love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Why did the sign come to pass? God allowed it to come to pass to test his people, to see if they were going to be persuaded by a sign or a wonder and go do the wrong thing. So it's a test. And the test was, whether do you actually love the Lord? What's the first and great commandment? Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and body. And if you're doing that and some joker comes along and says, a star is going to fall tomorrow, and guess what? Tomorrow a star falls, and now he says, come on, let's go serve Baal or Astaroth. And I mean, obviously I know the future. I've shown that guy, so now you should listen to me. If you love the Lord with all your heart, you'll say, no. Period. Rather, ye shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. Sometimes when we think about cleaving, we think of like a meat cleaver, and that's like slicing things apart. We're not talking about that kind of cleaving. We're talking about like in marriage, where leaving father and mother, the man shall cleave to his wife, right? You're adhering, right? Sticking close, right? So, if you were to today see signs and wonders, people giving prophecies, and they came true, does that automatically mean you should listen to that individual? No, it means you need to listen to the substance of what they're saying and make an informed decision. If they are leading you away from the truth of Scripture, don't follow. Still true today, right? What would happen to a dreamer of dreams who attempted to do that? This is a capital offense. That dreamer, that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God. So it is a capital crime in the nation of Israel, under God's law, to attempt to lead his children astray to worship other gods. Turn you away from the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, right? This is the God who's done so much for you already, that this guy is attempting to thrust thee out of the way which the Lord thy God commanded thee to walk in. All right, so this prophet, this dreamer of dreams, this deceiver is attempting to push you out of the right path. Right? Look, here's something that you can believe. Follow me. Wham! And so that's a capital offense, to death. So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. What's the evil? That guy, that dreamer of dreams, or that prophet that's attempting to lead the children of Israel astray. You put the evil away by and execution. Okay? So that's one scenario. You have an individual who is attempting to deceive and lead you astray, and he may be given significant signs and wonders, but the signs and wonders don't trump the substance. Right? There's another scenario, and that's if you have a close family member who decides they're going to go away and they want to take you with them to serve other gods. If thy brother, and we're not using that term just loosely, brother, we're talking about the son of thy mother, all right, your literal brother, or your child, thy son or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, all right, your literal wife, or thy friend, which is as thine own soul, right? Jonathan and David were buddies, right? They said they loved each other as their own soul. There was as close a friendship as you can get. So it doesn't matter who we're talking about, the closest family member, the closest friend. If any of them entice thee secretly, this is a private message. They're not publicly broadcasting it like the prophet would have been. This is someone who comes to you secretly and says, come on, let's go serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely, of the gods of the people which are round about thee, near unto thee, or far off from thee, from one end of the earth even unto the other. So it doesn't matter whether he says, hey, we've got this local god over here. They seem to be doing really well in their crops and their finances and everything. Let's go serve that god. Or, hey, I've heard this real cool thing. You know what they do way over there in Babylon or over there in Asia? They worship this thing. We should do that. So it doesn't matter if it's a close or a far. The answer in verse 8 is, thou shalt not consent. Don't agree. Nor hearken unto him. That's step 1. What's step 2? You're not going to pity him. You will require the disclosure to the appropriate judge, and they will be executed. Right? Because not only are they going and pursuing idolatry, they're trying to convince other children of the Lord to go and do that wickedness. Right? So you're not going to pity him. Neither shalt thou not pity them. Neither shalt thou spare. Neither shalt thou conceal. All right? Mandatory disclosure, right? You had a forced obligation to report that individual because of the great wickedness that they were doing. And so instead of pitying and sparing and concealing, instead, thou shalt surely kill him. This is another capital offense. Thine hand shall be the first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. Thou shalt stone him with stones that he die, because he hath sought to thrust thee away from the Lord thy God. So this would be a capital offense. You'd have to report it. The judges would determine, yes, right? Because could you do this with just one witness? No. For any capital thing, you had to have, let no man be put to death without 2 or more witnesses. So you have the witnesses there. Their role is they had to cast the first stone, right? And so the family members are not going to be trying to hide it. They're not going to be allowing this wickedness to continue within their family, and then they are going to have to take the bold stance that serving God and obeying him is more important than a family relation. So that's why they had to cast the first stones, and then the rest of the congregation there would stone them until he died. Why? Because he sought to thrust thee away from the Lord thy God. So it was bad enough that they were going to do it, but they attempted to lead other children of God to sin. Right? When we talk about casting stumbling stones before the children, it's better that he be hung about with a millstone about his neck. And that's kind of what we're talking about here, is that when your conduct is attempting to cause others to sin, that's a big deal. It's not just your sin that's impacted. So, he's attempted to thrust thee away from the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt and from the house of bondage. Now, there's a deterrent effect, right? It's part of the reason that we have criminal justice, is that you're to try to prevent this from other people. You see the consequence. So this individual who's been stoned and stoned by his own family, all of Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you. Now, what happens if you don't listen? You pity that family member and you conceal it. You don't have that example given to others, right? People are getting away with it. All right, so that's scenario number 2. One where you've got someone publicly trying to lead people away using signs and wonders. You've got a second scenario where it's a private matter within the family, within your friends, trying to secretly entice you to go and serve other gods. There's a third scenario. And this would most likely occur because the second one wasn't dealt with. If thou shalt hear, say, in one of thy cities, which the Lord thy God hath given thee to dwell therein, saying, certain men, the children of Belial, means worthless individuals, have gone out from among you and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other gods which ye have not known. So here's what you hear. You hear there's a whole city inside the nation of Israel, right? They haven't gone in and conquered yet, right? Later, when you've conquered these cities, if you hear that there's a city that has led the whole city astray, you go and you investigate, all right? You're going to inquire, make search, ask diligently. It's not you're just going to knock on the gate, y'all worshiping Baal? Nope. And then go away. Oh, they said no. We looked into it. No, you got to actually go and inquire diligently. And behold, if the thing be true and the thing certain, so it's provable, that such abomination is wrought among you, thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants of the city with the edge of the sword. All right? So how would you determine that? You go into the city. What do you probably see there? Altars and things, right, showing that they're engaging in this practice. So if you find those things and that's certain, so before in scenario 2, it was an attempt. And scenario 1 was an attempt. However this happened, it's actually been successful here. You have led these people astray. The consequence for that city, because what should have happened? They should have dealt with it. Whoever the first one was who was attempting it was successful, and rather than him being stoned, right, you now have multiple complicities going on and going on and going on until the whole city is impacted. So you shall surely smite the inhabitants of the city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly. Who survives in that city? Nobody. This is a total wipeout. Destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and all the stuff, and the cattle thereof, with the edge of the sword. Thou shalt gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street, and shall burn with fire the city, and all the spoil thereof, every whit, for the Lord thy God. And it shall be a heap forever, it shall not be built again. Now, one practical takeaway. Is there any financial incentive for accusing your neighboring city of indulging in idolatry if you're not permitted to keep any of their stuff? No. This is different than like Ahab when he wanted somebody's vineyard and got upset about it, and his wife, just accused him, had some men accuse him of blaspheming God, and they stoned him, and then, hey, Ahab got the stuff. Here, God is saying, they have contaminated this whole city by their practices. The city, the walls, the houses, the animals, all the gold, all the silver, everything valuable. Nobody can have it, because if they do, you're going to have the same result with Achan taking the accursed thing from Jericho, right? Jericho, the whole city, was deemed cursed, right? There were some pieces that were taken to give to the tabernacle and the temple. I think it was the gold and silver, but you weren't to take anything, and it was never to be rebuilt. And so that's what's going on here. This is such a serious thing that if one city was to be corrupted like this, it had to be razed to the ground. Everything slaughtered. All the people, all the animals, all the stuff completely burned. Why? Every whit for the Lord thy God. This is what he requires. It's being burnt for him. It shall be a heap forever. shall not be built again. You can't even use the land for something else. Okay? And there shall cleave nothing of the cursed thing to thine hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show thee mercy and compassion upon thee, and multiply thee as he hath sworn unto thy fathers. Okay, bigger picture here. People find out about this situation in the city, and they don't deal with it. What is hanging over them? The Lord's fierceness of his anger is upon the whole nation. And so if they don't deal with it, then the Lord will punish the whole nation, not just the one city. Okay? Do you remember that dark tale in Judges where a man's concubine was abused and wound up being murdered? That was a city within the nation of Israel. Those men were described as children of Belial. They were engaged in just wickedness. And all of Israel came together en masse to deal with it. And they required that city, as the city of Benjamin, to send out the malefactors, the wrongdoers. And instead, the city said, nope. And in fact, our buddies, the rest of the tribe of Benjamin, we're going to fight you. And they did. And for a time, they succeeded for a little bit. But eventually, that was when the tribe of Benjamin was almost exterminated, because Israel was trying to basically follow through on theirs, a corrupt practice within this city. It wasn't idolatry necessarily. And they were trying to bring down justice, and then they were repulsed for a time until the tribe of Benjamin was reduced down to just 300 men. So when Saul said, I'm of an insignificant family and the smallest tribe, he wasn't exaggerating. Benjamin was almost nothing. So that's kind of a parallel for how that would play out, of coming to address a city that is in great rebellion. So, nothing cleave to your hand. So don't take any clothes, don't take any cattle, don't take any silver, don't take any gold, don't try and take the land and rebuild it. Don't take any of it. So the Lord will turn from the fierceness of his anger and show thee, the nation, mercy, and have compassion upon thee, and multiply thee as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, when thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep all his commandments, which I command thee this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of the Lord thy God. So remember, this is a conditional-based covenant. There were great promises for the people of blessing and compassion and multiplication, and grow and get stronger if they obeyed. All these things described in this chapter of radical departures from that and disobeying. And so there would be the other side of the coin, which was the curses and the withdrawal and the constriction and affliction. And so this was the pattern that they had to follow in order to deal with that, if they'd already let it go so far that a whole city was engaged in it. Deuteronomy 13.
That verse 3 is very key to this. You've been taught that the proof of a prophet is that what he says comes to pass. Prove that he's a prophet. And you read that, and it's kind of confusing there to get to verse 3. It's that the reason that was allowed to happen was because I'm testing your commitment to me.
Yeah.
So that's just the first thing you see when you're serving, is you know that the proof of a prophet was that what he said came true.
So it's like a two-step test. In law school, you'd have different step tests for determining something. Test one with a prophet was, if he says something's going to come to pass and it doesn't, chuck him out the window. You don't have to go down to step 2 to look at the substance. Obviously, he's not sent from God, because when God says something's going to happen, it happens. But just because you get past step 1, if the sign does come to pass, then you got to go to step 2 of, well, what is he actually saying? Oh, he's saying I need to depart from the Lord. Chunk him out the window. That's step 2. You fail there. And so you don't have to get to 2 if he doesn't have the sign come to pass. But you don't stop at 1. Well, we're good enough. No, it's an and statement. You got to have everything. Follows the sign comes to pass, and it comes to pass with 100% accuracy, right? All these YouTube prophets who make all these prophecies and then have to revise them. You're garbage, okay? The Lord will deal with you. All right? That is dangerous business to speak on behalf of the Lord. If you can't back it up from the authority, from the Word of God, the Lord says, vengeance is mine, I'll repay. Good night.